Hello and welcome to Dubai Life. In this video, we're going to talk about resumption of passenger flights from Uganda to Dubai. That is from Entebbe International Airport to Dubai International Airport. So if you're here for the first time, I need you to subscribe to this channel. Click the notification bell so that will notify you every time we have a new video. Share this video, like it, and if you have anything else you want us to talk about, you can put it in the comments box. So let's get started. On 3rd of August, information started circulating about resumption of flights from Uganda to Dubai and some other countries, about 11 countries in total. Since that day, I've got messages and calls from people asking me what is required, who can go to Dubai, and what is required for someone to go to Dubai or to the United Arab Emirates. In the beginning, the information was not so clear. You had different information from the Emirates Airlines website, different information from the ICA website, and other sources had different information. So that's the reason why I delayed to release this video. I called up the Emirates Airline Service Center and they gave me some information, some clarification on who is allowed to go at the moment to the United Arab Emirates and who is not. And in addition, what do you need to show before you can go to the United Arab Emirates? So in this video, I'm going to base on the information from one of the websites of the airlines in the United Arab Emirates. Let's talk about the procedure for UAE residents and visitors to arrive or to visit the United Arab Emirates. Yesterday, 5th of August, Dubai accepted flights to come back to the United Arab Emirates, but with some restrictions on countries below. Countries included Nepal, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Uganda. So these countries have been on suspension for a while. Now from 5th, which was yesterday, they accepted them to come back to Dubai. However, there are some restrictions that we're going to look at. So if you're preparing to go back to Dubai from any of these countries, including India, Nepal, Nigeria, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Uganda, these are the requirements. These are the people who are allowed to go at the beginning. When I talked to the Emirates team this morning, they told me that instructions keep coming in. So there may be changes in the future, which means before you plan your trip, call the airlines and confirm, book the ticket and confirm that you will be allowed and what you need to go with. However, in this video, we shall talk about some of the things that they mentioned. Let's see what they say. The following categories of passengers will be granted permission to enter Dubai subject to compliance of certain conditions. The first category is people holding UAE residence visas. These can go back to United Arab Emirates provided they have been fully vaccinated. That means you've got 2 jabs, the first one and the second one. And also, they must have passed 14 days since you received the second jab. If you have been vaccinated, especially if you were vaccinated in the United Arab Emirates and 15 days have passed since you've got the vaccine, then you can easily get into the United Arab Emirates if you hold also the residence visa. In addition, you need to have a certificate showing that you have been fully vaccinated. And you need to also have the Al Husna app, which is updated showing your vaccination status. There are many questions about which vaccines are accepted and which vaccines are not accepted. So in this case, there's no information about that, but if you're vaccinated in Dubai, then you're good to go because the vaccines in Dubai are accepted. Students currently studying in the United Arab Emirates can also go back with the vaccination. So students with the residence visa and continuing education, they can go back to the United Arab Emirates. Second category is medical staff. If you're a doctor, nurse, technical person in the hospital or in the health sector, then you are allowed to go back to the United Arab Emirates. Also, people in the education sector, teachers, lecturers, professors. If you're out of Dubai at the moment and you're in the countries that I've mentioned, India, Nigeria, Nepal, Uganda, then you can also go back to the United Arab Emirates now. We have also a category of people who can go back to the United Arab Emirates whether they are vaccinated or not. So these include another category of people accepted in with or without vaccination is people with a valid residence visa given on humanitarian grounds. For example, people from war-torn countries, people asking for asylum in the United Arab Emirates. If you're given a residence visa and it's still valid from any of those countries, then you can go back to the United Arab Emirates with or without a vaccination. Another category is people employed by the government. Whether it's the local government or the Federal governments, if you are employed by the government and you're out of the country, now it's time for you to go back to the country, to the United Arab Emirates, with or without the vaccination. Another category is people undergoing medical treatment. If you have any medical treatment going on and you need to return to the United Arab Emirates to complete your treatment, then you are also allowed to go back to the United Arab Emirates with or without the vaccination. Now, after telling you the categories or the groups of people allowed in the country, there's some things you have to do before you can be accepted in. So there are conditions you have to meet. And if you don't meet any of the conditions, you may fail to get into the country. So let's look at the conditions. Condition number 1, you should be able to show a negative COVID test. And in this case, we're talking about a PCR test that must be done within 48 hours and must be done from a reputable hospital or a reputable organization. The certificate must have a barcode that can be tracked. You are required to also have a rapid PCR test at the airport 4 hours before you board. This is also mandatory if you're returning to the United Arab Emirates from the countries that we mentioned above. And the third condition is, even on arrival at the United Arab Emirates airport, Dubai airport especially, again you'll take another rapid test, another PCR rapid test to confirm that you are negative. So these are the 3 conditions that you'll have to pass before you can be allowed to enter the country. Number 1, PCR test with a barcode and must have been done within 48 hours. Number 2, a rapid test, PCR test at the airport 4 hours before you board. And number 4, another test that will be done at the airport when you reach, another PCR test at the airport when you arrive in Dubai. Exempted members must seek permission to enter Dubai, and they can do this by submitting an application form through the GDRFA website. This is a permit to re-enter the United Arab Emirates through Dubai. If you had submitted and got approval to return to the United Arab Emirates before 5th of August, that permission is not accepted. You have to apply for new permission. If that time you did not go back to the United Arab Emirates and now you want to go, you cannot use the old application that was approved. You need to reapply again and then you can get another approval before you can travel. If the visa you have is valid and a residence visa from any of the other Emirates other than Dubai, then you have to submit your application for re-entry to the ICA website. That's different from people who have visas valid in Dubai. If your visa was issued in Dubai, your application should go to the GDRFA website, and I'll put a link below. But if your visa was issued by any other emirate apart from Dubai, then you have to apply for return through the ICA website. The application has to be done before you book the flight. You cannot do this after you book the flight. Maybe your acceptance will come late and then your flight may be lost. In case you don't get a confirmation of re-entry to the United Arab Emirates, do not go to the airport because you will not be allowed entry. You need to get that approval, print it out so that you can use it to book your ticket and then use it also when you're boarding the flight to the United Arab Emirates. And if you're holding a UAE residence visa that is valid, you cannot stay out of the country for more than 180 days. So make sure you return to the United Arab Emirates before you exceed 180 days. Otherwise, your visa will be automatically cancelled. What I noted is, at the moment, they have not talked about people with visit visas. All this is focusing on people who have got residence visas. But we know that more instructions will be coming out soon. Maybe after a week, once they monitor and see how things are going, then they'll have to lift more restrictions off. Maybe we shall have more flexible entry requirements and visitors can now go back to Dubai or United Arab Emirates. But in these instructions, I've not seen anywhere they're talking about visitors. It looks like they're only focusing on people who already have resident visas to the United Arab Emirates and people in key sectors, like they said, hospitals, people working in health sectors, students, people on humanitarian grounds. Then you can go back to the United Arab Emirates with or without a vaccination. That's all I have for you in this video. Please subscribe if you haven't, like the video, share it, and give a comment if there's anything else you want us to talk about in the next video. Thank you so much. Watch out for the next video.